If you have no interest in learning, you will not learn. You meet millions of people every day. Do they affect you? You don't know who's who. You may be next to the most powerful man on earth. You don't know if you haven't seen him on TV. How would you know if you're receptive? You need to be receptive. And receptivity is not given to everybody. And then it's depending on you're receptive to what. One time I was in New York City. I forget the street, one of those mainstream, Fifth Avenue, one of those like fancy streets. And I was taking a walk. I was like touristing, walking, doing my usual shit. Walking, that is. And I don't know where I'm at. I just finished hanging out at the, I forget the name of the park, right? Central Park, right? I had taken a moment there, right? Whatever. And I was walking my way back, and I knew I was on this expensive street. You can feel it immediately. You feel like there's nobody there, but you feel like you're out of place, right? So anyway, I'm walking, I'm minding my own business, and then I see a dude passing in front of me who's about to go into a store, and I just see him, and I stopped. Like I stopped. I never met this person. He's at least, I don't know, like 10, 20 meters in front of me. It's like over there, right? I just saw him just cross me, and I stopped, and I just stared at him from the back, right? Because I felt something coming from that person, and I had never felt that before in my life. I'm like, who the fuck is that dude? Now I know this guy ain't a sage from the Himalayas, right? I could just feel it. I'm like, wow, that's something else. That's his vibration. Whatever's passing in his nervous system, I could feel it. And I just wanted to get a taste of that. I'm like, I'm gonna hang out here until I can't see you no more. And I kind of like, I'm not like a freak, right? Nobody knows what I'm living, right? I'm just like a tourist, just like looking around. But I'm feeling this dude, and I'm having a moment connecting with his, I don't want to say his aura. Whatever, right? Now, that's maybe sounding weird for you people because you don't understand these things. But for me, this is life, right? This is something. I never felt this before. I've met a lot of people in my life. I've met very rich people also. All kinds of people. And I had never felt that. So I kind of like continued to walk. Then I saw him enter into a store. So I just stood in front of the store pretending I'm looking at the window, but kind of just looking at the dude and what he's doing. Then he went in. It was dressed very nicely. I used to sell suits, so I know what an expensive suit looks like. I've had expensive suits, but not like that though. This whole thing was just another level of shit. Like this is not my domain, and I know what's my domain. I'm like, that's not my domain. That's a whole other level. I wouldn't even touch the door of the store out of respect to their shit, right? I'm like, no, it's not for me. I'm good. I'm good where I belong. This is not for me. But it don't mean that I can't appreciate it, right? No judgment. No, like, this is a superficial guy. No, this guy's a special dude. That's all I know. So I just stood there and enjoyed the presence of that energy and that person's energy and just receiving whatever I had to receive. And I saw him enter in the store, and then he went into like some secret room from my perspective because I can't see it, but it's not in the obvious store. And then he went about his business. I don't know what he's doing. I don't care. And I was just like, for a couple of minutes, just like, that was a fucking thing. Now, I was sober. I wasn't on drugs, certainly not mushrooms. I'm like sober as fuck. That's just me. That's how I operate. Now, of course, I was touristing, which meant I had time and nothing to do. And I'm just like absorbing what's happening in Manhattan, right? And I'm in a particular place in Manhattan, like that's Central Park, and there's all the expensive stuff around, and it's like the main streets. So it's like, you don't have that in every city of the world, especially not like that. This is a particular joint. So I'm taking it in, I'm enjoying this, I'm receiving this. But I was available, right? Now, if I was different circumstances, I would have liked to bump into him. But it was not in the flow, and then I don't force things. It's not my personality. I just receive what I had to receive. So what I'm trying to say is that you can be next to Jesus, you can be next to anybody, you don't know who that person is unless you're receptive. And receptivity, well, there's times where you're receptive. If I was in a hurry, if he was in my home city and I'm doing my business, maybe I would have noticed his suit. But I'm like, I don't have time to like feel your fucking whatever the fuck it is, right? I don't care. I'm going here, I'm going there. I don't have time for this, right? But to be receptive is a quality of a student. So it's a quality of people who are interested to learn. And then that means you're available and open to feel. And if you're not, like I said, you could be next to Jesus. You wouldn't know that this is Jesus or feel anything. It would be just an ordinary guy with, I don't know if he has long hair or not, but you just brush him off. And people do that every day. You don't know who's who. They're not receptive. So in order to be a student, it's not a question of a teacher. You need a teacher, but you need yourself to want to learn. They come together. And when that desire to learn closes, the teacher becomes like a poison for you. He becomes almost your enemy. Not because he's bad or he turns on you, it's because he's trying to like put something in and you're like, no. And so it's like, well, I don't understand because I'm here. The deal is I teach and you're saying no. So I'm more powerful than you, so I'm going to win. So eventually something has to evolve. Either the student lets go of something and begins the next phase of learning, or the relationship ends, or whatever it is. But in order to learn, the student has to develop receptivity. The capacity to receive, the capacity to feel, the capacity to process data, not intellectually, not with your mind. You're trying like, but what does that mean? And what is that when he did that? It's like, no, the nervous system is your central intelligence agency. You don't need to have gone to academia to be intelligent. That's not intelligence. It's a form of intelligence. It's intellectualism and it's snobism. You don't need to know how to do that. Technically, at the end of the day, the greatest engineering feat that exists today has not been done because people went to school. It's through trial and error for thousands of years. At some point you figure it out. Then they decided to invent a theory around it to explain it. If the theory makes sense to you, good. If the theory doesn't make sense to you, doesn't change fuck all. What matters is trial and error, and then it works. So what I'm trying to tell you is, I apologize I had to take that little tangent. Learning, it's not a question of intellect. It's a question of your nervous system doing its job. It takes data, processes it, and it does this without you trying. The doggy dog is minding his business and he picks up a sound from God knows where. He picks up, I told you I had a German Shepherd for 15 years. My dog would start to freak the fuck out. He loved my grandmother because my grandmother's the one who found that dog. She didn't find him. She knew the lady who had the dog when he was 2 months old and they wanted to get rid of him. And my grandmother told my moms, let's get the doggy dog for the son. That's me. So my dog had a very special relationship with my grandmother, unconsciously, right? He's a dog. What the fuck does he know, right? And when she was, let's say, like 5 minutes away, he'd start to fucking go mad in the house, like he's having an orgasm of joy. And then we would know that my grandmother and my grandfather at the time was about to arrive. We knew they were coming, so we could time it. It's like a couple of minutes now. We knew about, how the fuck does he know? He's a dog. Right? So we're not going to say he had a seventh sense. No, motherfucking feel. That's what it is. He's tuned to who he loves and who he protects. Let's not make this complicated. So he's feeling this and his nervous system is receiving it and he's responding. So what's the difference between a human being and an animal? Besides the fact that the human being is his nervous system is so much more complex, so much more elaborate, and so much more capable. The dog is like a cheap 1990 phone, and the human being is a phone that's going to exist in 100,000 years. It's incomparable in complexity. So the real process of learning, when I say it's receptivity, that means is to remove what's in the way of the nervous system so that the nervous system just does its job. It does it on its own. You don't have to like think while it's doing it. You just let it do its job, and as it becomes proficient at doing its job, it tells you when to do something because it does it. So back to your question, do we need a teacher to learn? You need to, but first the student has to be receptive. And the student's job, what it means to be a student, it means to perfect receptivity. That's what a student learns. How do I perfect receptivity? In other words, how do I disencumber my nervous system so that it can receive more data, more influx? How do I strengthen my nervous system? What is the appropriate diet and lifestyle and mindset to help the nervous system remain integral and increase in its capacity? That's mastering receptivity, which means you can receive more from the teacher, and the teacher, of course, represents the path and the lineage. It's as simple as that. So it's, you know, the whole process of electricity. You have the central, I don't know how to call this, the power plant, and the power plant goes through. It's the same thing. So you need to become one of those like big things. What do they call those? Whatever. You know them. You understand. You need to become one of those with no obstruction. So that's mastering studentship. It's not an easy task. It's really not an easy task. And ironically, mastering studentship means mastering, which means mastering the flow, which makes you a teacher. So one becomes a teacher, dare I say a master, at whatever degree, by being a master student. When you're a master student, you're a master. Because there's only one thing to learn, the flow. And when you're good at the flow, then it means you're a teacher. Because now in your turn, people are coming to you to receive an impulse. Right? Now, there are different sports, some easier, some are harder, but at the end of the day, the principles are the same.